at this. This is my favorite cockroach. Isn't he cute?
Look at this little baby cockroach. It's like changing my thoughts about cockroaches.
Right?
Hi, I'm Kate, and on this episode of Bite Sized, we're exploring solutions to food waste. Food waste is a serious global issue. About 30% of our food is wasted every year. Now, there are a variety of ways in which we're trying to address this problem. And one of them is considering what we do with food once we are done with it or it spoils and we toss it out. The majority of food goes to landfills, which has a negative impact on our environment. An alternative to that is compost. Today we're going to learn about compost. There's lots of complexities, but essentially we're taking our uneaten or wasted food and recycling it back into nature. So we've been doing our research, but there are so many different types of compost and complexities of compost. Lucky for us, we have an expert to help us out.
Hi, I'm Megan from Efficient Earthling. Let's get our hands dirty.
So how did you get started originally? Seems very overwhelming. Like
It's a
even doing
lot.
the research for this, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many parts to this.
There's definitely a lot to it.
Yeah.
It was definitely a process to get into it. I got chickens, and I was seeing how much my chickens were eating. My chickens were eating all of my food waste, and I didn't realize how much food waste I was producing. But there are things that they wouldn't eat. That's whenever I started looking into composting. How can I compost the rest of what the chickens can't eat? And that's how I discovered red wigglers. And I did a Craigslist search on who has red wigglers in town, and there's a lady that I met, and she has taught me her ways, and we swap back and forth information on what works for us. I'll bring a sample of castings over, and we'll sift through each other's castings to kind of see like what's working for the other person, what setup works, and kind of exchange information like that, which has been lovely. Okay, so right here we have some cultures of worms that we can look at, and we also have 2 buckets of food waste from the Alamo Dome that need to be processed. Whenever I'm processing, I don't always have time to get to it when it's fresh. Things like this mold right here, they start breaking down the food waste before the worms even get to it.
And then what's in here?
Here we've got some more worms. This is an indoor
Oh yeah, I see them crawling around. So like I obviously see pieces of cardboard and worms. Are you putting in a little bit of soil as well to start with? Or like what is this?
Yes, they should definitely, I consider the castings to be like their home or their immune system. And they want pieces of they want to have a comfort level around them. So you can't just put like just worms in wet cardboard and expect them to be happy. They need to have kind of like a little home around them, a little bit of castings. So whenever I do sell worms, I make sure they have a good amount of castings that they can be in.
So this is literally just like their poop.
It is. It is. But it doesn't smell bad.
It's so much. It's so much poop.
Yes. And that's what you want. That shouldn't smell.
No, it doesn't. It honestly, it kind of just feels like soil and like aerated, kind of light soil, not super packed, but.
So what's so special about this worm poop? Well, it's a prime example of the decomposition process, that breaking down of dead organic matter, which in this case is discarded food. At the end of this process, we have broken down carbon and nitrogen. Foods vary, but they all share 2 important ingredients, technically elements, carbon and nitrogen. And these 2 elements are critical for providing any living thing with energy. In foods, carbon and nitrogen are essentially packaged into complex, bulky forms that aren't readily available to be used as energy sources for plants. That's where composting comes in. It helps break down these foods into really simple forms of carbon and nitrogen. And so when we add it to soil, it can be readily used by plants.
So where will you actually put this?
That is a lot. So that probably one of these buckets will feed this bin. And with this weather, it can go as fast as a week or 2.
So most of it will be
gone in a week or 2.
Wow.
This is a bin that is just household food, so it's kind of shallow. My bins for, well, it's not shallow, it's like it's a bathtub.
Okay.
It's a bathtub.
Oh, that's like, it
This
legitimately is a bathtub.
This is literally a bathtub, yes. So
wow, so resourceful.
Yes, that's what the biggest thing I want to touch on about worm farming. I consider it to be super DIY, which is very cool to me. The ice chests on bulk pickup day, I go and pick up ice chests. I grab whatever rocks I can. I use old screen windows, cover that up, and then start worms in there. And that's what I consider to be the best starting. That's where I started, was in ice chests.
In addition to red wigglers, Megan adds mushroom blocks to her vermicompost. These fungi are another example of a decomposer that helps break down the food. They're a particularly good teammate in this situation because they can break down more complex carbon substances than the red wigglers or bacteria. Speaking of team players, it's important to note that in any situation where we have food breaking down, bacteria are involved. Bacteria are found in the earthworm's stomach, just like we have bacteria in our stomach that helps break down food, as well as in the food materials and the bin. They are basically everywhere, and our compost is just creating an environment in which the bacteria that we want, that are helpful, can thrive. Here, the earthworms work with the bacteria and speed up the decomposition process by physically breaking down the food and producing castings. As a result, there is more surface area exposed to the bacteria, speeding up the decomposition process.
Oh, look at all the little critters. I'm starting to see them. They're like popping up.
Yes. And then you can go deeper into it, and it gets compact.
Oh,
so this is like their ideal kind of environment where it's really compact like this. And then I just come in, just drop in our food, sprinkle some browns with it or some leaves, like some of these blocks, and then bury it back up. Ooh. Okay, so this is a mango seed, and mango seeds are like little tiny breeding colonies. These are special to find. So these are the black soldier fly larvae. They get big, they get like that big. And I don't know if you can see the little white scurrying guys, but those are springtails. They're right here. And then we have some eggs in here as well. So these aren't eggs. They look like eggs, but it's grain. But it's from the mushroom blocks. It's kind of confusing because they look really similar to worm eggs. But we can definitely find some worm eggs in here as well. Oh, I don't know if you can see the springtails all right here. Whenever you go to feed, you see what food is in there. Like, that's really the experiment of it all. You see what they eat quickly, what they don't eat as quickly. You can see whenever you are feeding, it's important to do long-term food and short-term food at the same time. So short-term food would be something soft like an avocado or a banana. I do suggest if you're doing indoor feeding, you freeze your food before you... Oh, you want to talk about feeding real fast?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about feeding.
Yeah. So what's the point of freezing?
The point of freezing is to help, because if you think about it, if you freeze a banana and you let it thaw, it's going to be a lot mushier, right?
Okay.
Like it's going to make all those water molecules expand and kind of pop those walls, those cell walls.
Yeah.
So it becomes a lot easier for a worm to just slurp it right up.
That makes a lot of sense.
Huge difference in breaking down food quicker.
Okay.
It's always better to feed less than more. It's easier to recover from feeding less because then you can just see like, oh, it's a little dry in here. They're not wanting to create more of them because there's not enough food to go around.
So when you're saying that, to me it feels like, okay, there's like a lot of worms in here already. Like, is it noticeable when the number of worms in there is increasing?
Yes, most definitely. Because you see them right at the top whenever they're increasing in numbers.
Okay.
Some bins will do better than others. That's why I keep several.
In addition to vermicomposting, Megan also does hot composting, which is your more traditional form of compost. As the name implies, this compost literally gets hot.
Oh, well, look.
Feel how hot it is. Like, it's so
Oh my gosh. I mean, that was definitely food, right? Right there.
Definitely a bunch of food.
Yeah.
You got some cantaloupes in there.
At warmer temperatures, decomposition will occur more quickly. Additionally, these warmer temperatures make it difficult for pathogens that we don't want in the compost to survive. While there are a number of factors that influence this process, like moisture content, one key piece is the size of the pile. It needs to be big enough so it insulates that heat being produced by the microbes as they break down food.
When you're looking at this, what are you
What am I seeing here?
looking for? Yeah.
Right off the bat, I think I have too many leaves in here personally.
Okay.
The leaves are all right, but they're kind of high in tannins, but it's a good brown product to have, and I have an abundance. But it looks good, it's decomposing.
Yeah.
It's really hot. It's supposed to be really hot like that.
Okay.
This one is only a week old, and you can see like how it looks pretty good on the top there. That's where you're gonna have more of your insect activity. You can see like little bugs.
You
all
see lots of
crawling.
little guys
Yes.
here.
So you got like little bits of wood roaches, you got isopods, but this whole pile is just moving. This is the older compost here we could take a look at. So this would be a usable product already.
Okay.
This is good.
And it's like the texture, how you're determining that?
Yes, this is good.
Okay.
Like that's perfect. Look at that.
Okay.
This is great stuff.
So when thinking about how something like this, a lemon that's been in this compost for the last week, and how it's breaking down, we have to consider all of the different organisms that are involved.
As we've seen in both examples of compost, it's not just about one organism, but it's about an ecosystem of many organisms. And while we've seen a lot of cool organisms today, we can't forget about the ones that we can't see, those bacteria. There are so many different species, and they play a critical role in breaking that food down.
We hope we've inspired you to be more mindful about the resources you're using, to not only think about the food we're discarding, but where it goes, and to get your hands dirty, like you said, and just kind of dive into it and not be afraid to experiment. I feel like that's the biggest thing I've taken away from you, is thinking about taking something that we want to change, right, and then just diving into it.
I hope it inspires you to start your journey, and thank you for listening.